The man had been in prison for 10 years. Every day, he focused on just one thing. Whenever a guard walked by, he would get close and secretly memorize the size and shape of the keys. At night, he would draw the key from memory. Even the smallest detail, he would redraw it dozens of times. He wanted to recreate the key with 100% accuracy, but that was only the first step. After the guards finished their room checks, he would roll up a piece of paper and slide it into the keyhole. Then he poked the bottom of the paper with a pencil. A few times when he pulled the paper out, 2 small creases showed where the key's length ended. Next, he had to trace the key's outer shape. He pressed a sheet of paper against the outside of the lock and used his fingers to rub back and forth. Then he traced the faint outline with a pencil. Now he had the blueprint, but he didn't have the material. Metal was nearly impossible to get in prison, but wood was not. When he told his cellmates, he planned to carve the key from wood. They laughed and said it would never work. They had a point, still he had no other option. So one day, while working in the prison workshop, he grabbed a few small pieces of wood. He planned to hide them in his thermos bottle. But just then a guard walked in toward him. One of his friends knocked over some supplies to distract the guard, but the guard got suspicious and made everyone line up for a check. When it was his turn, the man got nervous, too nervous. The guard picked up his thermos, poured out the coffee, and gave it a shake. Luckily, it made no sound. That was because the man had stuffed a rag inside ahead of time to muffle the wood. The trick worked. Late that night, he finally started carving. He used a blade to shape the notches, then smoothed it all with sandpaper. After carving, he glued the parts together and left the key under a light to dry. Once the glue hardened, he fine-tuned the shape by comparing it to his drawings. Again and again, when he finished, his hands trembled. He inserted the key into the lock and gave it a slow turn. The wooden key worked. With a soft click, the lock opened, but his smile disappeared quickly. There was a second door, and it could only be opened from the outside. He was stuck. Still, he didn't give up. Every time he saw a guard's keychain, he stared at it until he memorized every detail. At night, he quietly made new keys in the dark. Then came the day of the big cleaning. He took out one of his keys and tried again. This time it worked. The second lock opened easily, but when he tried to reset the lock back to its original state, something went wrong. The key jammed, and when he tried to force it, broke off. Inside, panic hit him. At that very moment, he heard footsteps echoing in the hallway. A guard was coming upstairs. His cellmates quickly acted like they were cleaning. The man pretended to mop the floor, but his hands were shaking. Just in time, one of his friends handed him a tool. The guard's footsteps were getting closer and closer. Now the question is for you. Do you think the man will get caught?